posed to all candidates on topics surrounding Ward 1, specifically its student constituents. Questions will be posed to candidates in order of last name for the first question. Succeeding questions will rotate the order of candidates going first, as outlined in the itinerary you all received. For the free period, candidates will be allowed to ask 2 questions of their fellow candidates. Candidates cannot ask 2 questions in a row. As mentioned, we have 4 questions. We will begin with a brief introduction, where you have 3 minutes for your opening statement before moving into the questions, and then we will conclude with your 3-minute closing statements before closing with a thank you. Do you have any questions? Amazing. So we can get started then, if we would like to start with introductions and your opening statement. If you'd like to go first, MacPherson?
Sure. My name is MacPherson. I've lived in Ward 1 all my life. I've enjoyed all my education throughout Ward 1, including McMaster University. I have very fond memories here. A lot of fun, interesting props. Sorry. And yeah, I've worked hard to persevere a lot of challenges to be where I am, as a lot of us have. I believe I see society in a very unique way from the perspective of being one of disability and whatnot. And yeah, I just want to represent you, and thank you to the Silhouette for putting this on.
Thanks very much. John Vail, running in Ward 1 for City Councillor. I think you can remember me as the accountant with the beady eyes, and hopefully they'll become eagle eyes when I'm in City Council. The main reason for being around McMaster is that our family has quite a connection with McMaster. My son got his MBA here when the last year that they had the MBA in the main campus and not out in Burlington, and he was able to live at home and got into the deal with no debt and came out of the deal with no debt because they have an excellent co-op program. In my case, I chased 3 advanced degrees or designations when they talked me into it with their so-called executive education, and so spent a number of years here, and so kept my brain going even at a later stage in life. So I'm looking forward to hearing the questions that are going to be asked so that we can get to know each other better and see what comes of the issues that you wish to raise. Thanks.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Maureen Wilson. I've been a resident of Hamilton since 1994 and have lived in Ward 1 with my husband, raising 3 children for the past 20 or more years. It's been my great honor to have served the residents of Ward 1 as your Hamilton City Councillor, and of course that includes the students living in Ward 1 for these past 4 years. I ran 4 years ago because I believed I could make a positive contribution to our city and to our neighborhoods, and I brought my experience as an urban planner, my work in municipal government in a senior capacity, my experience as a mother, and of course a resident of Ward 1. I also have done my undergraduate education at McMaster University. As a new councillor, I've been an agent of change, advocating for greater transparency, focused decision-making, and decisive leadership. And if re-elected, I will continue to do my homework and to listen and to act decisively and be transparent. It's a pleasure to be here this afternoon, and I'm looking forward to doing my best in answering the questions that are put forward. Thank you.
Thank you all so much. So I'll get into our first question now. You will have a minute and a half to answer, and then we'll go around again for a minute. You'll have to rebuttal. So our first question is, what do you see as the biggest issue this election for your ward, and how would you go about addressing it should you be elected? And we start with Mr. Vail.
Thank you for that opening question. What we have been hearing is that the number one issue in the ward is public safety. And what I'm hearing from the McMaster folks specifically is that the campus security is fairly good and people feel safe on campus. The problem is going off campus and finding it to be less secure. And so in answer to that, my vote would be for increased public safety through increased police protection in Ward 1, not less, as some others have asked for. So that is the first one. If there's time for me to say the second one that has come up, has percolated to the
20
top.
seconds. 20 seconds.
It's over-intensification of our neighborhoods, but we can get into that further on. Thanks.
Ms. Wilson?
Thank you. There's not one single issue, but I would say the overwhelming comments that I receive at the door is one of council decorum and the issue of trust and confidence. That people are looking for steadfast leadership that is transparent, and in the absence of trust and confidence, it's very difficult to take on the challenges that are significant in facing our city. And to that end, I have received considerable praise and feedback of how they like my civil nature of governing, my transparent nature of governing, how I post all my expenditures and my attendance on the website, and our responsiveness. Thank you.
Mr. MacPherson?
Yeah, I would agree with both candidates. It is, when you knock on the doors, it's safety regarding police safety and also like street safety, road safety, but also transparency. And if elected, I would be 100% transparent. I am through all my debates, whether the question asks for it or not, I give my opinion. And as for street safety, yeah, the roads around every neighborhood, cars speed down side streets, try to avoid lights on main streets. I don't believe the speed bump aspect is the best approach at it. I would install speeding cameras where possible on side streets. I think enforcement is a very important part of making people follow rules, which was demonstrated with the nuisance bylaw. And also to Vail's point of people off campus that enjoy hiking and stuff, I would like to see maybe some patrols walk the trails to protect students and all constituents within Ward 1 when they want to enjoy the outdoors.
Wonderful, thank you. You now each have a minute for rebuttal.
I think that the problem with transparency with the existing council is, I mean, it was the newspaper that coined the word sewergate, and it certainly wasn't the best example of transparency along the way here in the past term of council. So I fail to understand how defending a record of transparency exists when there's still the lingering effect of sewergate and it hasn't been resolved.
I'll explain to those who are watching, and also Mr. Vail, who doesn't seem to understand how the operations of council work. On the matter of the sewage leak in Shadow Creek, the volume and the duration of that sewage leak was known by the previous council of 2014 to 2018. The legal course was set by them, and they determined to withhold that information. The new councillors, when we were first briefed of it, were shocked, and I have insisted the entire time with council that this information had to be made public. It was in the public interest, public health, public safety, public knowledge. I had to convince a majority of councillors to reverse their decision. They were not prepared to do that, but I set in place my own freedom of information with the Ministry of the Environment is a way in which to get the information to the public. Thank you.
Yeah, I would just reinstate what I've stated before and will continue to state, that we as a government body, whether it's municipal, provincial, or federal, are CEO in the way that we represent you. So the people are the shareholders and the owners, and we need to be 100% transparent at all time. And that even means if it risks your job to come out and speak to the public when it involves their health. You have to be willing to make that risk. You have to be willing to stand up for your constituents regardless of your own stance. Not stance, but security, job security, financial security, whatever it is. So yeah, that's how I feel.
Thank you all. Moving to our second question now. So, as you are aware, I imagine, housing is a huge issue for Hamilton and for students as well. So, one of the questions we've had from students over the course of our municipal election coverage is how the incoming Ward 1 City Councillor would plan to address the lack of housing for students in the ward. As before, you have a minute and a half for your answer, and then we'll go around again with a minute for rebuttal. We'll start with Ms. Wilson.
Yes, supply and affordability is a huge issue for students. I've been working with the McMaster student issue on this very fact for the last number of years. If I could just step back for a moment, because students are being caught in the same bind that all individuals are. And it's particularly hard on middle income and low income families who are have aspirations to send their child to school. Canada was the only industrialized nation that had no national housing strategy until the Trudeau government. Ontario is the only province in the Federation where social housing has been downloaded onto property taxes. That's neither prudent nor is it sustainable. And the culmination of those matters is very, very injurious in terms of providing a supply that is affordable, because when the demand is squeezed, the cost will go up for everyone, including students.
Yeah, so I believe in the tiny house kind of solution where you can, if you have a big enough property, you can build it in your yard or on your property somewhere. I do think that the red tape for that needs to be taken back a bit so it can happen faster. And as far as students go and landlords in general, I don't think by adding licensing and other taxes to them is the smart way to go about it, because then they just have to up their rent. So I would not stand by something like that, even for Airbnbs. And then, yeah, I mentioned something about zoning last night, but one of my colleagues kind of informed me that that may not be the right way to go about it, as it's not allowed. But I would look further into that and see if we could change that so students can be in one area and maybe have it a bit cheaper. And I also believe in the 30% as affordable, so your annual income would be 30%, and that would go for students as well.
Thank you. Mr. Vail?
Thanks, Madam Chair. The issue is really a macro one. Obviously, not only Ward 1. So my colleagues have pointed out here that it's a federal issue, it's a provincial issue, and it's a municipal issue. The whole housing affordability cannot be solved, in my opinion, in Ward 1. The student housing, McMaster's doing their part to try and house students. The demand is there. This is a world-class institution, but the students will have to find accommodation elsewhere. As I said in the beginning of my remarks, my son lived with us here in Hamilton at home just to get by through his graduate studies. So this isn't new, or it isn't even news, but expect as a student to have to commute to this institution and not simply to have it in next door. And the other issue, of course, is
Mr. Vail, I'm afraid you're out.
okay.
We now each have 1 minute for rebuttal. If you begin again, Ms. Wilson.
Yeah, 2 points on that. McMaster, in fact, has not been doing its part to provide for safe, healthy, affordable housing for students. Between 1960 and 2010, McMaster student enrollment grew by 1,800%. Its entire built inventory, which includes pools, labs, libraries, classrooms, and residences, grew by less than 650%. That housing responsibility has been downloaded onto the neighborhoods. So let's go to the neighborhoods. I have been going to door, including every student door. There's 2 houses on Sanders, 13 bedrooms at $900 a pop. That property owner is making over $140,000 a year. So I find it interesting that a license at $200 a year would somehow make that investment and return unsustainable. And the second matter is, you cannot pretend to be interested in affordable housing when you are against low density, which will provide for duplexes and triplexes. It's just incongruent positions.
Thank you. Mr. Pearson?
Yeah, so when I was speaking of the licenses, I wasn't just speaking on landlords that make over $100,000 a year. I'm talking about all throughout Hamilton. I've heard that, you know, the increase of that $200 or whatever it may be may impede on some people renting Airbnbs and just using an extra rental to kind of get by. And as far as the density and McMaster doing its part, I like the idea that they're having of adding it along the LRT line route there, right beside Dillwood School, and I think there's room in Ward 1 to add a few more units like that will hold so many students. And also, if you were to add entertainment level at the bottom for the students, they could stay within their confinement to enjoy bars or clubs or restaurants.
Mr. Vail?
Thank you. I'm glad the comment about duplexes, triplexes, and single-family residential neighborhoods has come up, because I wanted to be clear that I'm not in support of turning our existing single-family neighborhoods into duplexes, triplexes, and fourplexes as of right. There's it's too much, too fast, and it's going to destroy the character of our neighborhoods here in this part of the city. Thank you.
So now we will move into our third question now, same format as before. So, recognizing that Ward 1 has the largest student population of Hamilton, how would you support students and ensure their voice is heard? We could start with Mr. Pearson.
I'd start with things like this. By voting, your voice is heard. It's very important to vote, regardless of the turnout of the vote within Ward 1. I just hope the voting, the turnout in general is higher. So if you want your voice to be heard, you definitely have to vote. And as for accommodating, like I've said before, and I just said moments ago, I would like to see more entertainment here. Years ago, there was a pool hall that was here on Main Street. I believe it was on King Street. That housed students. There was a club on Main Street, Billy Bob's, that housed students. Those students wouldn't have to travel the city. That live in Ward 1 to enjoy the city, what the city has to offer and whatnot. So yeah, I would try to bring more entertainment to this district for students specifically.
Mr. Beck?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The point to be raised with our McMaster student population, in my opinion, is to take advantage of Hamilton as a whole, not just the bubble of being on campus as we are now. Hamilton has a lot to offer, and you know, explore Hamilton and become a Hamiltonian. And once you graduate, don't just think this is a short-term, you know, arrangement for you here in Hamilton, and then you'll go off somewhere else. Make it your home. Make it so that you either get a job here after or create one here for others. And that's what I find is a very tough road to hoe. Council has to make sure we have the public safety to allow students to feel safe all over the city. Thank you.
I think the question was one of engagement of students.
Yes, so the question was, recognizing that Ward 1 has the largest student population in Hamilton, how would you support students and ensure their voices heard?
Thank you. In 2018, when I first ran, there was no election pool on campus. And immediately after the election, the city clerk went from counselor to counselor, just getting back an evaluation. And I advocated very strongly, if we want to make voting and democracy part of our practice, we have to start as young as possible. And so putting a poll on campus, in my opinion, was absolutely necessary. And I'm glad to see that that is the case this time. I have met with every MSU, both here on campus, virtually and otherwise, that has invited me to, and I have actually reached out proactively. I actually hired an MSU vice president to work in the Ward 1 office over the summer, and she was invaluable in bringing that student perspective and experience. And I think listening to what their needs are, and they have articulated those very well during the city's budget deliberations. Thank you.
Great, then this will be our last question before we get into the free period. So this question is following up on the last one. Why do you feel students should care and vote in this election for a Ward 1 city councilor? We could start with Mr. Vail.
Thank you. That is actually a great question that it depends on the individual, you know. In my own case, thinking back on participation, to me it was always necessary to live this way. Define your community and serve it. And so that started in my case, not well, to polish my halo because no one else will, very early in the public education system, in student councils, in getting elected here, there, and everywhere, to serve my fellow students. Now, it continued in that will then bring other things, charitable organizations, causes. So the earlier we can get the student to become engaged in their community is good for a lifelong of of involvement. Thank you.
We know that over the next 30 to 40 years, due to changing demographics, there is going to be a significant shortfall of working population. And the competitive advantage of a city will be its ability to attract young talent and to keep it, what is often referred to as magnets and then glue. The engagement of students while they're here as students is a great start in which to attract them and also listen to what they know and what they need. They have told us that they are attracted to places where they can find good quality, affordable housing, where they have different modes and means of getting around. We know that 22% of people living in Ward 1 own no vehicle, and that will include students. They are attracted to arts and culture and vibrancy. The competitive advantage of cities is investing in those things that will attract and maintain students living and working here.
Yeah, I would agree with both as well. Engagement is a big part, and listening to students, and just listening to citizens in general. Engagement is a huge part of being a counselor and being a successful one. So I agree with both of them, and just to engage and attract the students to stay, like Maureen said.
Thank you. And then you have 1 minute for rebuttal. Mr. Vail?
Thank you. The students have to feel safe in the broader community, and it's what we are charged to do as city councilors, to make the public safety aspect of paramount concern, so that the students as well as the residents can enjoy all of Hamilton and not just inside the secure campus area. Thank you.
Thank you. Every municipality in Ontario had to complete a community safety and well-being plan. And Hamilton has just completed that exercise, driven by community groups across the spectrum, and I know students participated. And the issues that students wisely identified as key to their safety was there should be a floor beneath which we do not fall or fail. That we all have access to affordable, safe housing. That there be no violence in our communities, particularly those who have historically been subjected to violence, including Indigenous persons, and that they stand in partnership with and allies to those who historically have been subjected to violence. And so the leadership of students in lending that voice to those very many tenets of safety is really important.
I again agree with both. The safety aspect goes far beyond just obviously students and everything. But to do that, I don't believe we should be, I don't want to make this a hot topic or anything, but to reallocate money away from that safety net, meaning the police department, is maybe not the right way of going about it. I believe reallocating money within the police department to certain divisions would be a much smarter way about it. And as for traveling the city and students getting to know the whole city, I totally agree with that. And in my opinion, increasing the HSR buses and maybe more stops and more routes would have been a better way to do that than the proposed LRT. So yeah.
Thank you. We will now begin our candidate free period. So you will have the opportunity to ask 2 questions of your fellow candidates. We'll go in order again. You'll have 30 seconds to ask a question, and then you will have the candidate in question will have 1 minute to respond. So we could begin with Mr. MacPherson, if you'd like to ask a question of your fellow candidates.
Okay, I'll go on of funds within the police department rather than taking it out and dispersing it through other programs within Hamilton.
Thank you. Thanks for the question, Ian. As I've noted in previous debates, I support and concur with the logic and position put forward by Chief Bergen, and that is modernization, the realignment, the detasking of police services. Chief Bergen has acknowledged that police are doing non-core functions that they were not trained to do. And we know through the Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan that there needs to be a commensurate attention to and funding of. For example, Healthy and Safe Babies, the core budget of that, which provides for deep intervention at the birth of a child in a family that may be more vulnerable, that funding has been capped at $2,015. So I'm very much in alignment with the Community and Safety Wellbeing Plan and Chief Bergen, and we need to see a commensurate increase in those holistic services. Thanks, Ian.
Mr. Vail, would you like to go next and ask the question of your fellow candidates?
Yes, thank you. Thanks again. The question that I'll ask the incumbent councillor is that I'm not sure I understand the answer to the last question. I don't think, maybe you can explain it, the difference between defunding the police and what did you say, detasking? How is that different, and how can that make Hamilton safer?
Sure, I'll try my best to explain it to you. It's as stated by Chief Bergen, and you can call it whatever you want to call it, and you can get hung up on the name, but it's the principle that matters. In that if you speak to frontline officers, they don't want to be doing what they're doing, and that is largely responding to, being attentive to, and dealing with issues having to do with mental health, for example. They want to go back to core policing as set out in the criminal code. And that's what Chief Bergen was speaking to in his interview, which I'm sure you watched on Steve Pagan's TVO agenda. You're welcome.
Ms. Wilson, would you like to ask a question? Would you like to ask a question of your fellow candidates now?
I'm good, thank you.
Mr. MacPherson, back to your second question now. Would you like to ask?
Yes, I'll go with John Vail this time.
Yes.
Do you
Looking forward to it.
support encampments, and if so, how would you deal with it? And do you support programs like the Tiny Alliance of Shelters in Hamilton?
See, that's a, you know, how can you support encampments as such? People are driving into this city and seeing that kind of mess that's going on. So, and encampments are not safe places for the people there. I know people who are working in the encampments to try and help people. There's a pastor I know, and he's going around and making sure people are at least somewhat looked after. And it is a major problem to keep those encampments out there. We can't let encampments go on in the city. It's not safe for the people who live in the encampments, never mind the people who live around the encampments. So that is to me a clear and concise answer for you.
Mr. Vail, would you like to ask a question? Would you like to ask a question of your fellow candidates?
I would like to, if you give me a chance that to understand what is meant by, let's say, city building. We are looking at this city from a micro perspective. These debates, to give you an example, do not really share the vision of where this great city can go and where it should go. It is one of the greatest cities in Canada, and we're squandering it. We're not taking advantage. Example, this world-class institution, fine, but it's off on its own. There's other public institutions. I just don't understand how city council, as it has existed up to now, is let's say, examining a vision for the future of this great city. So that would be my question to the incumbent.
I'm afraid I don't know what the question is.
Can you please restate your question a bit more succinctly, Mr. Vail?
What is your vision? Okay, let's be more specific. What is your vision for the future of this city?
I support the vision which has been articulated by this council and previous councils. The vision for Hamilton is to be the greatest city, to raise a child, and to age successfully. If you are able to cover those two bookends of when a child comes into this world and near the end of our life, if you are able to provide the living conditions, the health conditions, the housing conditions, the ability to traverse the city safely, the green conditions, then I think you will be a competitive, sustainable, financially advantageous, it will be advantageous financially as a city. And I support that vision.
And then you do have the opportunity to ask a question of your fellow candidates, Ms. Wilson, if you would like as well.
Thank you.
On that note then, we'll move into your closing statements. As mentioned, you have 3 minutes each for the closing statements, and then we will conclude the debate. If you'd like to start us off, Ms. Wilson.
I'd like to thank you for this opportunity to have this conversation, to have it on campus, where I always feel good coming back to this place. It's an opportunity for us to reach residents. I have said countless times when I'm with any audience of students that once you move to this city and once you move into Ward 1, you are a resident, and I am here to advocate for your well-being and your health. And if re-elected, I will continue to do that. Thank you.
Again, I just want to thank you for holding this. I really hope that students have watched and listened, and that you get out and vote for whoever, you want to vote for. Just make your voice heard. I think it's extremely important that happens. And I really thank you for being here and asking these questions. And like Maureen said, I do enjoy coming back to the campus. It brings back a lot of memories. So.
Thank you. Mr. Vail?
Thank you. You know, we're here in a debate about the future of Hamilton, and it's my view that the students should, in fact, believe in Hamilton as their lifelong vocation. Make a home here, raise a family here, as the vision of the city was articulated. Be safe, and define your community as being Hamilton, and contribute as much as you can to the great city, because without the students to contribute to it, well, you know, we can't move along this city without the students with their energy and their vision about the future of this community. So good luck to all of you as you're chasing your pieces of paper that are no doubt, or writing midterms, or whatever you're doing right now, and thanks for listening and being engaged. And just that reminder that the voting will take place on campus. What is it, in the CIBC hall?
In CIBC Hall on October 18th.
Yep.
Um,
And just remember too, that if you can't vote for us because you live somewhere else in the city, you find out who those councilors are in the running in another part of the city, because those are the people you're gonna want to engage with based on where you live. Thanks very much for having us here.
Thank you so much, all three of you, for joining us. We very much appreciated it. And thank you for your candid and thoughtful answers here at the debate. As Mr. Vail mentioned, for those of you listening, there will be voting on October 18th in CIBC Hall on campus. Be sure to bring a piece of identification and something that shows your address, your Hamilton address, rather, so that you can vote. There will also be voting on Election Day, on October 24th, at a polling station in Ward 1. The details can be found in the